Safety first. I don't know if you like snakes or not, but holy smokes. I am personally not the biggest fan of snakes, but I also don't want to get the tires dirty. Anyone knows what kind of snake this is? He's big. You got to get out of the trail, buddy. Okay, go. I don't know what to do with him. This is why we bring the professionals. There we go. Adios, dude. All right, back to driving.
Up until today, the best-selling car in the world was the Tesla Model Y, followed closely by the Toyota RAV4. It's just a compact SUV style of vehicle that people want. Today, Rivian is throwing their hat into the ring with the new Rivian R2, which has the footprint of the Model Y, but the ability to take adventures off the beaten path. You know, it's got personality. Rivian's R2 has more horsepower than a Ford F-250 Super Duty, faster acceleration than a V8 Ford Mustang, while keeping the ground clearance of a stop Jeep Wrangler.
Hills are never quite as steep as they are on camera as they are in real life, but one thing I really like about electric vehicles off-roading in general is just how quiet it is. It's so cool. It's like, seriously, like a Tesla and a Jeep had a baby. You get the quietness of an electric vehicle with the off-roadiness of a Jeep. Those are the technical terms.
To compete with the best-selling vehicles on the planet and cut about 50% off of the bill of materials, Rivian has swapped the suspension from active airbags that we see on the R1s to passive springs, passive roll bars, and semi-active dampers. The structural battery pack is made up of 768 battery cells. These become the floor of the R2, and all of these serviceable components sit in a little treehouse module on top of the battery, right underneath the rear seats for easier long-term serviceability. Not many people talk about Rivian's 8-year, 120,000-mile drivetrain and battery warranty, but that peace of mind is pretty priceless. I'm impressed by how well they were able to chop the price in half, while still keeping all the aura of Rivian intact.
Now that we are sufficiently off the beaten path, let's take a look around the inside of the Rivian R2, because there's 3 Easter eggs they've included that I'm sure you don't know about yet. This obviously is a wrap and not a finished exterior. We'll get to the front trunk in a second, but I really like that there's tow hooks on the front, because this thing is, you know, meant to be adventurous and explore the outdoors. We have the same pull handles that we have on the other Rivian vehicles. And our first Easter egg is back here. And you might be like, oh, it's just the NACS port that Tesla uses. But nope, Rivian has actually made a maze on the inside of the charging port door. The start point is here, and you work your way all the way down to the end point here. And you know, if they got to the point of adding Easter eggs to the vehicle, the rest of the details are equally as well thought out. Let's check out the other Easter egg, and it's in the front. It's a power open, but a manual close. Right here underneath the Rivian logo, there are 3 lines. If I press that, the whole hood opens up. And inside of here, there's enough storage space for some golf clubs or like a carry-on luggage. But the Easter egg is in here, the windshield wiper fluid lid. And it's actually a frog and a skunk. Which, since it's a frog and a skunk, frog, skunk, frunk, anyway, it's an Easter egg. I will manually close it. It'll latch and then pull it in by itself. And the other Easter egg is inside the cab. We still have the flashlight in the door handle, which is just, you know, a staple of Rivian's designs. Also, I did not know this, but Rivian makes a hand warmer / power bank that fits inside of the same sleeve. So you can always have a power bank with you. Also, you can warm your hands in the winter. Anyway, very easy to swap out between the two of them. One thing I like about the R2 is that even though it's like half the price of, well, we don't know official pricing yet, but even though it's close to half the price of the original R1s, we still have a blinker stock as well as 2 screens. So when you're driving down the road, you're able to see how fast you're going, as well as a map in front of you without having to look over to the side like some other EVs have. I feel like the cameras are almost cheating. And then the other Easter egg, I'll move this water, is down here underneath the rubber mat. And underneath the rubber storage space cover is a little diagram of all the accessories you can put in this cubbyhole, like a water bottle, knife, lanyard, or a camera. There are a few things that Rivian changed from their launch event. We still have the dual glove boxes, you know, storage space, but the front seats do not recline flat anymore. I'll show you the back here in a second. But up here, we have a button that rolls down all windows at once, as well as another button that rolls down the back glass. I am glad that Rivian left both screens, and one of the big additions are these giant wheels that Rivian's calling their haptic halo wheels. The halo haptic wheels are kind of crazy. Not only are they gigantic, one on either side of the steering wheel, but they are accessible from both the front and the rear. And let's say you want to use the left dial to change the volume, you can scroll it all the way up, and when the dial reaches the end of the volume meter, in Rivian's case it stops at 30, the electric motor inside of the halo wheels will change the haptic feedback so that the clicking stops and the dial stops rotating. It feels very much like a physical stop, so I'm very interested in how they accomplish it all with just motors and software, but it gives you a level of control over all the assets, you know, like changing even the temperature or the power of the air vents without having to reach over and touch a digital display. It'll also help control the assistive driving features, you know, at the follow distance behind cars, as Rivian rolls out their point-to-point autonomous driving. Before we jump into the back, I do want to show one thing I don't like as much. Rivian is doing the electronic door locks that a lot of manufacturers are doing. So here on the driver's seat, it is just a push button which unlocks the latch over there. And then the emergency exit is right here next to my water bottle. You can just pull this latch, which physically lets you out of the vehicle in case of an emergency. And then back here, if we open up this door, this is also a digital, you know, electronic latch. And then the emergency lock, you have to pop this out and then pull a cord, which adding complexity in emergency isn't my favorite thing, so I do wish they had physical latches on all 4 doors. Coming back in here, we have 3 full-size seats with plenty of legroom. This is my driving position, and there's seriously so much legroom back here. I'm gonna lay down the seats flat. We can roll down the rear window here, and also back here we have the raised Rivian lettering, and there's a button right here which opens up the whole back hatch so that you can camp out inside. Rivian does sell mattresses that are gonna fit back here, as well as room for a spare, not a full-size spare, or just plenty of extra storage space underneath the floor pan. Making our way to the back, it would not be an adventure vehicle without the ability to tow. So if we take off the aero cover, right there's the tow hitch. We don't know the official tow rating of the R2 yet, but since it's half the price of an R1, I would assume it can tow about half as much. But since it still has the 7-pin adapter, I'm imagining that they've designed it to tow quite a bit. I also like how Rivian's incorporated their logo into the side marker lights, as well as, you know, the turn signals. And the top still has 2 attachment points for the roof racks, which fit the rooftop tent or, you know, kayaks, because it wouldn't be an adventure vehicle without the ability to store stuff on the roof. Also, right here on the windshield, there's a little gear gar face. And right here in the hood, this piece of plastic right here, this vent is called a cowling. And there is a very small owl in the cowl. Creative. I'm told there are several more Easter eggs throughout the vehicle, but they will not tell me where they are or what they are. So that is for owners to find.
Now, I've owned a Tesla Model Y, so it makes me especially qualified to compare the driving experiences between Tesla and Rivian's R2, and I'd have to say that the extra 3 inches of ground clearance and additional wheel travel make the ride exponentially smoother on Rivian's R2. Speed bumps are about to file for unemployment.
I'm impressed that Rivian's made a competent adventure vehicle at half the price of their flagship models. However, one thing I would like to say to Rivian and recommend, and maybe you can help me out down in the comments, now that we have the R2, maybe we can make an R2T, a truck version of the less expensive adventure vehicle. Let them know down in the comments, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.